Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla1991 here, and today/tonight, depending on what time it is when you're watching this video, well, as we all know, today is the 26th of November, which is the premiere launch day for Prehistoric Planet Ice Age, and so to celebrate, I thought that it would be suitable to talk about the Safari Limited Prehistoric Life Tube. Why not call it the Ice Age Tube instead? Well, I'll discuss all that later. But for now, the set. Anyway, as you can see, it contains 3 humans, 1 meat roast fire pit, 2 environment pieces, and of course 7 animals. If you've been around since the early days of the channel, then I think you may recognise these miniatures from a little project that I made all the way back in mid-2014 many years ago, called Clash of the Mega Beasts. Link to that very old video is in the description below, in case you wish to check the video out. But anyway, let's now crack on with the review. Firstly are the accessories, those being the tree and the volcano. These propose as environment pieces, and you could just put them in the background. Up next is the Neanderthal family, and I'm not a big fan of the humans. Well, first is their own accessory, which is the spit roast fire pit, and you can put the family around it, as they are waiting for the meat to cook. We have the mother holding her child's hand, which is nice. And you have the male, who I assume is the husband, getting ready to launch his spear at a target, most likely a mammoth. Now he won't look good with the set's own mammoth, but he'll do better with Safari's larger mammoth model. So yeah, as you can tell, the cave people and the accessories are exceptionally lame. Also, the Neanderthals remind me of Trog from the Harryhausen movie Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. However, the main highlight of the set, and the reason why many of us wanted it, is because of the prehistoric animals. Now, although a good majority of these miniatures represent megafauna from the Pleistocene epoch, there is actually a mixture because the set also includes 2 animals who actually evolved in the Eocene epoch, millions of years before the Ice Age. And as usual, like the other tube sets, we're now going to look at each of these mammals chronologically. By the way, these are scaled down versions of what Safari made at the time of the set's release. For the larger counterparts, some are still around and you can get them to this day, and others have been discontinued. But there is one that actually didn't receive its own large figure until years later. The first animal of the set is Andrewsarchus, which was one of the earliest top mammalian carnivores, made famous thanks to the sequel series to the original Walking with Dinosaurs, Walking with Beasts, appearing in episode 2, Whale Killer. And speaking of which, this miniature, as well as its full-size counterpart, were based on that particular interpretation of the animal, where it was actually more Entelodont-like in appearance, so I've heard. I don't like the paint job because to me it's too similar to Smilodon's colour scheme, even though it's lighter in comparison, so I would have gone for yellow as seen on the retired model, although I did come across this image online of the miniature in that colour scheme, so it's either an early concept for the set, somebody's custom, or possibly a bootleg. Compared to the Collector and Kyoto figures, this miniature is just okay looking. On its own it's fine, but in my opinion it's the weakest of the set. However, it's better than the humans and environment pieces that we looked at earlier. The second of these mammals is the rhino-like Arsinoitherium, which although this particular miniature is not as good as the collector model, but still pretty nice looking nonetheless, and he's all blue with the exception of the eyes that are black. I really do like the horns. He wouldn't be Arsinoitherium without them. Also, for whatever reason, the facial expression on the miniature kind of reminds me of Elam from the Oddworld series. Unlike the collector Arsinoitherium, both large and miniature, that are meant to be more scientifically accurate, Safari's depiction of the animal appears to show the outdated reconstruction, that being completely rhino-like, as seen in all those old paintings, as recreated by Sir Charles Knight. However, as you can recall, Arsinoitherium may have looked like a rhinoceros, but it was actually more closely related to the elephant, and despite the collector figure being a far more superior representation of the animal, I did actually one time consider on ordering the larger Safari model to go alongside it. However, I was unable to find it on eBay, so my guess is that it's now sadly been discontinued. A real shame because it does look nice, despite being inaccurate. I really do hope that Safari reintroduces this animal, but give it a more up-to-date sculpt, or maybe another company, because Arsinoitherium rarely gets represented, as it often lives in the shadow of Megatherium. Anyway, Arsinoitherium is a nice simple looking miniature, but he's still a great figure, and one of my personal favourites out of the set. Those are the 2 giants of the Eocene. Now we come on to the Pleistocene. Although most of these species actually evolved millions of years earlier, some of them originated from the Pliocene epoch, but they did see the days of the Ice Age. So in my eyes they're still Pleistocene Goliaths. Now all the animals out of this set, as mentioned earlier, are scaled down versions of Safari's megafauna models, but Macrauchenia, or Macrauchenia, as some folks pronounce it, was completely brand new to the company, and Safari wouldn't make a figure of this South American mixed-up mammal until 2018, many years after the set was released. However, the miniature does bear a striking resemblance to the Shrike Macrauchenia. This is a plain looking one, being mostly brown and cream white, and I don't really like on how the nose has been painted, because it's dark, then it becomes white again, ending with some cracks, which make the model kind of look a bit unrealistic. I know that it's only a miniature, but surely they could have tried to have the white fuse into the dark brown, because the cracks do look like they're about to flake off at any second. Anyway, Macrauchenia does really look nice, even though, again, like Arsinoitherium and Andrewsarchus, she too is also outdated, because it's now believed that Macrauchenia actually possessed a bulbous-like nose, rather than tapir trunk-like, that we could see on the Prehistoric Planet model, if that really is Macrauchenia. However, this miniature does make me wish that the set had other species that Safari had yet to cover at the time, rather instead of the humans and scenery. Another Goliath native to South America is the giant ground sloth Megatherium, and out of all the miniatures in the set, this colossus is actually my favourite. Now the colour scheme on the larger model was light brown, however the miniatures is dark brown. Not only that, but it's almost identical to the woolly mammoths, who we'll be looking at later. Like the full-size counterpart, he is posed even getting ready to graze off the tops of trees, or perhaps he has defended himself from predators, even though he doesn't look to be given a stay-away gesture. Also, like his full-size brethren, he is hairy, but at the time of the set's release, he was decently accurate. But we now speculate that this giant was actually hairless, given the warm environment. Again, we can see this on his cousin, Andrewsarchus, forgive me if I butchered that, who will be appearing in Prehistoric Planet Ice Age Episode 2. Megatherium, the giant ground sloth, is one of my all-time favourite Pleistocene Goliaths, and this miniature of the South American Titan is just pure perfection. Again, inaccurate by today's standards, but still beautifully decent nonetheless. No Cenozoic set would be complete if it didn't include the famous knife tooth, Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat, which is definitely another favourite for the set. As we all know, Smilodon wasn't a tiger, but despite this being a miniature version of Safari's interpretation of the saber-tooth that we looked at along with the Mammoth and Megatherium, the colour scheme portrays Smilodon in a tiger's coat, and he even has tiger stripes. So this miniature is literally a saber-toothed tiger, when he clearly wasn't a tiger at all. And even design-wise of the feline miniature, that is, he does actually remind me of the saber-tooth from the 2001 Channel 4 series Extinct. And as what species the miniature represents, well, again, like the full-size counterpart, I'm going to say Fatalis, or possibly Populator, but I'm placing my bets on Fatalis. He possesses his iconic saber teeth, that look just as menacing, even in miniature, but unfortunately, however, the back of the left saber tooth has been scuffed away. As I said, it's on the back and it's quite unnoticeable. It was like that in the packaging. Saber-tooth cat Smilodon is just great as his full-size counterpart, and in my honest opinion, another best of the set. Also, this particular miniature saber-tooth reminds me of Shere Khan from the Jungle Book, and I also wonder who would win in a fight between the two. My money would be on Smilodon. Another Goliath who was also native to South America was the giant armadillo Doedicurus, or the mammalian Ankylosaurus as I call it. Like the full-size counterpart, his tail is raised up as he has most likely defended himself from an attacking carnivore or even a rival, and the spikes are exaggerated where I believe that they're meant to be blunt. The colour scheme appears to be a mixture between orange and light grey, and the face is pretty hamster-like too, again like the larger figure. Even though I have seen some illustrations of this animal and its cousin Glyptodont possessing trunk-like noses. However, according to Prehistoric Planet, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. It's clearly inaccurate. So again, there's no evidence to suggest that these animals possess trunk-like noses. Doedicurus is another top dog out of the set, along with Megatherium and the other two icons of the Ice Age. One of them we'll be looking at shortly. This is another good looking miniature, and if you wish to, it'll also make a good juvenile. I'll show off the miniatures with their full-size counterparts at the end of the video. And again, like with the larger model, there's really not a lot to say on Doedicurus, it's just a nice looking miniature. Finally is another best of the set, and that is of course Woolly Mammoth, and like the others, he too is a scaled down version of the bigger 2004 model. However, the only downside to him are his legs, as they look absolutely scrawny for an Ice Age giant of the Pleistocene epoch. Like the larger counterpart, he has his trunk raised up, either calling out to make his presence known or to warn predators to keep away, as these beasts can charge. However, I have noticed that the trunk has a flesh colour at the end, and the tusks are just as nice, although on the miniature they're clean and not weathered, but it's still fine. As I said earlier, his colour scheme is identical to the giant ground sloths, and while yes it does look really nice on Megatherium, but I think it looks much better on the Mammoth. Except for the legs, the Woolly Mammoth is really nice, and no surprise because I'm a massive mammoth enthusiast. This is another great miniature out of the set, even though I'd still love to see Safari make an updated Woolly Mammoth figure at some point in the future, or any other species of these mighty titans from the Pleistocene epoch 30,000 BC. Steppe Mammoth, Columbian Mammoth, Imperial Mammoth, or African Mammoth, I'm up for it. So that's the Safari Limited Prehistoric Life Tube, everybody. And what are my final thoughts on it? Well, in all honesty, I think that it's a nice setup of Pleistocene life with a bit of Eocene mixed in, and the set itself does actually give me La Brea tar pits vibes, as it does look like something that you will see in the souvenir shop. I don't know because I've never been there, although I would really love to go and visit those pits, if I can afford the money to spend a vacation in California, that is. However, I will say that the set is only worth getting for the animals, because the humans and scenery, I only see them as the accessories, as mentioned at the start. So in place of the environment pieces and the Neanderthals, I would have replaced with other animals, and I can think of the perfect ones, and those would be Ambelodon, Gastornis, Woolly Rhino, Megaloceros, and the short-faced bear. I know that Safari did not do the last three species, but like I said, they put Macrauchenia in the set, and they didn't do a full-size one until years later, so they could have done the same to some other megafauna. And not to mention that once upon a time, Safari did make a model of Coelodonta for their Missing Link series, as mentioned in a review for the Papo and Safari Limited Woolly Rhino video. Links in the description below, by the way, in case you're interested. So they could have done a scaled down version of the original Woolly Rhino for the set to go alongside the Woolly Mammoth. However, I would honestly like to see an updated version of this set, perhaps drop the humans and scenery pieces, and have it all be megafauna. Newcomers and redesigned old favourites. After all, not too long ago Safari announced the Herbivorous Dinosaurs Tube with new miniatures and updates, and I suspect we'll probably get a Carnivore Tube at some point, so why not the Mega Beasts get the same treatment, as they are just as magnificent as the dinosaurs. Now it's time for the rankings, and from least to best, my rankings for the Safari Limited Prehistoric Life Tube are Pine Tree, Volcano, Meat Roast Fire Pit and Neanderthal Family, Macrauchenia, Andrewsarchus, Doedicurus, Arsinoitherium, Woolly Mammoth, Smilodon, Megatherium. This set is recommendable if you're a Cenozoic enthusiast, or you just like anything prehistoric like myself, but I'd only get it for the animals, as I said earlier. However, you're most likely to get the repainted set. Oh yes, Safari have been known to do this with some of their tube sets. They did it with their Cryptozoology tube and their Venomous Creatures set, so of course the same is going to apply to the Prehistoric Life Tube. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Here's an idea: rather than repainting an already existing set, why not make a fresh new Prehistoric Mammoth Tube set with brand new updated sculpts for the Woolly Mammoth, Giant Ground Sloth and Saber-toothed Cat, etc. and so on. And in addition, let's have some brand new animals to go alongside them. Or how about dedicate a tube set to the La Brea tar pits, and have it contain miniature representatives of the Columbian Mammoth, American Mastodon, Highlands Ground Sloth, an ancient bison, the giant short-faced bear, a direwolf, Smilodon, brand new sculpt, American lion, and for the fun of it to go along with it all, why not a miniature of the doomed mammoth statue in the pit? If Safari made a La Brea tar pits tube, I would buy it, and I bet it would sell well in the souvenir shop. Anyway, this is Dragozilla 1991 signing out. Take care, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed Prehistoric Planet Ice Age, and I'll see you all tomorrow for Gamera's 60th anniversary. Bye for now.